9:30, so we are going to start. So can I welcome everybody to this year's annual general meeting of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority. This is the first full authority meeting that we've held since the tragic loss of Councillor Rob Triggs. And many of you would have known Rob. He was a very faithful and effective of the fire authority, and he also served for well over 30 years as a firefighter in the North Wales Fire and Rescue Service. And he will be truly missed by his family, his friends, his colleagues, and the community in Barmouth at large. So can I invite you all to have a moment's silence as we pay tribute to Rob's memory. Diolch. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr, pal. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Gareth Owens as the clerk to the authority for the first item on this agenda, which is the appointment of chair for 2025-26. Diolch, Gareth.
Good morning, members. As we were just saying before the meeting started, we have circulated pen portraits for the positions that are up for election this morning. Maximum of 250 words in order to help you as a regional body understand the qualities of the people who are seeking your votes. We had one candidate put themselves forward for the position of chair of the Fire and Rescue Authority. That was Councillor Dylan Rees from Ynys Môn. We have an electronic poll, and we will display that now shortly on screen. You will see that there will be, hopefully there will be two options now. There will be the candidate's name and abstain as an option. There were little circles to the left of each of the options. You click in the circle and a little dot will appear. And then, oh, sorry, that's the wrong one, Steve. Then when you've clicked in the circle, there's a little button on the right-hand side that will submit. That will go blue. And then you can click on that and that sends your vote in. We will allow a period for people to vote and then we will display the results on screen. Steve.
Bear with me 1 second.
So you'll see the two options there. Councillor Rees, abstain. Click in the little circle to the left of one of those. The little button on the right-hand side, bottom right-hand side, submit should go blue. You then click on that. That submits your vote. And when that is done, we will display the results. So there you go. Councillor Rees, llongyfarchiadau. You're now the chair. Congratulations. You're on mute, Councillor Rees. Sorry, you're on mute, Chair.
That's a good start, isn't it? So thank you, everyone, for your support. And I do appreciate it. I certainly don't take it for granted that I'm going to be re-elected. And I am grateful for the confidence and trust you've put in me. And I will do my utmost best to serve you effectively and conscientiously over the next 12 months. And it's good that somebody abstained because it keeps me on my toes. So that's good as well. That shows democracy at work. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is apologies. Lisa, have we had any apologies for today's meetings, please?
We have, yes, we have Carol Beard, Chrissy G, Tom Montgomery, Beverly Parry-Jones, and Paul Rogers.
Thank you very much. Well, can I take the opportunity to welcome especially Councillor Ian Hodge? It's his first meeting. So welcome, Ian. I'm sure you're going to find it very interesting and challenging, but rewarding being a member of the North Wales Fire and Rescue Authority. And I know that they're not here, but can I also welcome to the authority Councillor Tom Montgomery, and to welcome back Councillor Chrissy G. So it's good to have Chrissy back, and welcome to Tom as well. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Have we received any declarations of interest from anyone, Lisa? No, nobody's putting their hands up.
So, Chair, we have item later about members' remuneration. Clearly, all members are financially affected by that. The Code of Conduct, though, specifies that it is automatically and always a personal interest for councillors. Otherwise, nobody would be able to vote on those items. So we will record that all members have declared a personal interest in those two items.
Thank you.
Sorry, that one item.
That's great. Thank you for that clarification. So we move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the appointment of the Deputy Chair for 2025-26. I believe that we've had only one nomination, which is Councillor Mark Young. So can we therefore move to the vote for the Deputy Chair? Thank you. There we go. That's very clear that Councillor Mark Young is appointed as the Deputy Chair. Can I welcome you, Mark, as the Deputy Chair? I know that we will work very well together, and I appreciate having your support and assistance as the Deputy Chair. Can I also take this opportunity to pay tributes to the former Deputy Chair, Councillor Paul Cunningham, who I really, really have valued his support and his friendship and his advice over the last 3 years. And I know that I think it's no secret that he has health issues at the moment, and we wish him all the best with his ongoing health. And I know that he will remain a very committed member of this fire authority. So diolch yn fawr iawn, Paul. Thank you again for all your support. Gareth, did you want to come in as the clerk?
Thank you, Chair. As a result of that, we will need to note some changes further down in the agenda because, of course, at the moment, Councillor Young, up until that moment, Councillor Young was a member of or the chair of the Audit Committee. So we'll need to do a swap in order to transfer him onto the executive panel, because, of course, the executive panel always consists of chair, vice chair, and then 2 members from each authority.
Yeah, so we're coming on to that agenda item later on, aren't we? Mark, do you want to come in? Thank you.
Yeah, no, just very quickly, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members and officers, and thanks for all your support. Look forward to working with all you, and especially the officers on audit and members on the audit committee. Really enjoyed working there, and look forward to the new challenges. Diolch yn fawr pawb. Thank you all.
Diolch. So we come on to the appointment of Chair of Audit Committee for the next 12 months. We do have 2 candidates. I think because we have 2 candidates, I need to sort of take a proposer and a seconder. So we'll start for Councillor Gwynfor Owen to begin with. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Arwen Roberts?
Cynnig Gwynfor Owen.
Councillor Austin Roberts? You're on mute, Aelia, yeah? Yeah. And then and Councillor Gareth Sandilands, can I have a proposer for Councillor Gareth Sandilands, please? Mark? Proposer,
Yeah.
can I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
That's fine, thank you. So we've had, as has been pointed out, supporting statements in relation to both candidates. So we will now move to the votes, please. Diolch. All right, so it's clear from the vote that Gareth Sandilands has been appointed as the new chair of the audit committee, having received the most votes. So congratulations, Gareth. Llongyfarchiadau, you are now the chair of the audit committee, which will mean a change in terms of you transferring across from the executive panel to the audit committee. I think that's what you're going to say, Gareth. Am I correct?
Chair, I'm going to obviously congratulate Councillor Sandilands first, but yes, I was going to pick that point up. We also, Chair, need to appoint the deputy chair of the committee. And as we had two candidates, Chair, I was going to suggest that perhaps Councillor Gwynfor Owen, if he's willing to stand, might be nominated as deputy chair.
Can I ask Councillor Gwynfor Owen if he would be happy to stand as deputy chair or not?
Na, dim diolch.
No. So I don't know where that leaves us, Gareth. Can we defer that to the first meeting of the audit committee in that case?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. And Councillor Gareth Sandilands, would you like to say a few words?
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Diolch yn fawr iawn pawb. First of all, I hope I can give the job my full commitment and look forward to serving with everybody on the audit committee in the next year. Diolch.
Yeah, Gareth. So we now move on to item number 7, which is notice of urgent matters. There are no urgent matters. So we move on to number 8, where we have membership of the Fire and Rescue Authority incorporating appointments to committees and external bodies. So back to you, please, Gareth. Diolch.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, we've seen some changes in the membership of the authority this year. As you noted at the beginning, of course, the sad death of Councillor Rob Triggs. We are awaiting a nomination from Gwynedd, and that will be for the meetings in September. I contacted them last week to see their timescale, so that will be September. And Chair, this is something that you have discussed and commented on as an authority. We have relatively few female councillors on the Fire and Rescue Authority. Whilst it is, of course, entirely up to Gwynedd whom they appoint, I have said that the authority would welcome the appointment of a female councillor to try to redress the gender balance within our membership, and they have promised to consider that. So, Chair, we have a number of appointments to outside bodies. Those are handled ex officio. That is by reason of other office. So members can see at paragraph 7 of the report that you, for example, are our appointment to the Chairs and Chiefs Ministerial Fire and Rescue Liaison Group, the WLGA, and so on. So those are listed at paragraph 7. Chair, the membership of the different panels of the council should be evenly split 14-14. I think due to some of the turbulence that we've seen in membership and the changes in membership, that has been confused slightly because in trying to keep track with who's left from which committee, and we've ended up with a slight mismatch of 13 on the executive panel and 15 on the audit committee. So we need to redress that balance, Chair. As I said, the committee, the executive panel consists of yourself, Councillor Sandilands as chair and vice chair, and then 2 members from each authority. In reviewing the membership, Chair, we noticed that Conwy have only 1 member on the executive panel, and so we would need a volunteer to serve on the executive panel from Conwy. We will, of course, swap Councillors Young and Sandilands with then the extra nominee from Conwy and the extra nominee from Gwynedd. That will give us 14 on each in accordance with the rules for how those committees are constituted. So, Chair, I don't know if would you like to see nominations for the
Yeah, I can see that Councillor Ann Davis has got her hand up. Anne, do you want to come in? Diolch.
Oh, yes, thank you, Chair. But I put my hand up prior to the information. I would have been quite happy to swap from audit to executive, as I was on the executive panel in my last stint on the Fire Authority. But it doesn't look like I qualify to swap. Is it for Gwynedd and Conway only, is it? Councillors?
So Gwynedd had the vacancy, and as we said, as we have this sort of convention, don't we, Chair? That whoever succeeds Councillor Triggs will step into the seats that he held on the authority. So his successor would sit on the executive panel. But yes, we've somehow in the mix lost the two representatives from Conwy on the panel, and so we'd need somebody from Conwy to step forward, Chair.
I can see Councillor Sharon Dolman's hand coming up. Sharon?
Yeah. I don't mind which committee I'm placed on. So if you don't have any other candidates, I'm happy to change.
That to me would be a sensible solution. Gareth, do you agree?
Indeed, Chair.
And I see that Councillor Aaron Roberts' hand is up as well. Aaron?
Yeah, I'm quite willing to go on the executive committee if that helps. Yeah, I'm quite willing to do that.
Gareth, can I suggest that that we sort of sort things out further outside of this meeting? But I think members are in agreement in terms of moving forward and have given us some options. Is that okay?
Indeed, Chair.
Yeah. So can I just see that you everybody agrees with sort of the way forward in terms of what we're looking to do? Can you just indicate that you note and support? Diolch yn fawr. So we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the meeting dates for next year. And back to you again, please, Gareth. Diolch.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. So the meeting dates, Chair, are set out within the reports. We ask the constituent councils to avoid the dates of full authority meetings. Sadly, it isn't possible to also ask them to avoid the dates of exec panel and audit committee meetings because we have a full schedule at the Fire Authority. They have a full schedule as well, and trying to balance across 7 authorities isn't always possible to avoid clashes, but we do seek to avoid clashes for full authority meetings. The meeting dates are there, Chair. We have the convention developed in this term, as you know, of having the exec panel and audit committee on the same day. That enables us to sequence the reports so that they can be considered. They will be considered by SLT. They can be considered by the executive panel or the audit committee if they need to, before being reported to the full authority meeting. So that's how we've structured, and that's why we structured the dates the way we do. When we structure those around major items of business such as budget setting and the annual meeting, of course.
So that's fine. So unless members have got any queries or comments, can I ask you to show that you agree the meeting dates for next year, please? Diolch yn fawr. And then Gareth, apologies. I note that in the last item, I think it was suggested because Councillor Marion Bateman is no longer with the authority and sat on the Standards Committee that we were thinking of appointing Councillor Ian Hodge to the actual Standards Committee. Do we want to proceed with that nomination if Ian's agreed?
So I have spoken to Councillor Hodge about this. Councillor Hodge serves on the Standards Committee at Flintshire County Council and was willing to serve in accordance with the convention and the recommendations, Chair.
Excellent. So will you all show that you're in agreement with that appointment? Diolch yn fawr. That's sorted. So we go on to item number 10, which is the members' remuneration scheme. And over to you again, please, Gareth.
So 2 purposes here, Chair. We have to do 2 things. We have to vote on the prospective schedule of remuneration that will apply over the coming 12 months, whilst also approving a statement of that which was paid over the preceding 12 months. So you will see that we have a statement attached of what was paid over the preceding 12 months to members, noting their length of membership, any claims for expenses they might have made, and so on. And you will see that the recommendations for the forthcoming 12 months are based on the Independent Remuneration Panel's determinations for the forthcoming 12 months, although the Independent Remuneration Panel has, of course, morphed partway through the process of setting those recommendations into the Democracy and Boundary Commission for Wales. So those rates are set, those rates are beyond the control of councillors. So whilst you are asked to vote for it, in reality, of course, Chair, you as councillors have no choice and no involvement in setting the amount of money that you are paid. That is entirely out with your own control. And lastly, Chair, because of course we do occasionally get changes during the year whilst we're setting out the rates that will apply, if during the year we get a change in membership, I'll need to be able to apply those rates to the new appointees. Hence the second recommendation there.
Yeah, Gareth. So members will see that there's actually 3 recommendations that accompany this report. I don't see any hands being raised, so can I ask that you all show that you agree with the recommendations, please? Diolch yn fawr, that's unanimously passed. So that takes us on to number 11, urgent matters. There aren't any urgent matters. There is no part 2 items for discussion. So that concludes the annual general meeting. Diolch yn fawr, but you can't leave because we have got a now full authority meeting for the last quarter. So we go on to the full authority meeting. Lisa, I take it that the apologies are the same again?
We have had an additional one from Councillor Chris Hughes since the meeting started.
Okay, thank you. And then we move on to item number 2. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Owen Roberts?
Mr. Chairman, I've just explained earlier on that I have to leave at 11 o'clock. It's the Royal Welsh Showground. I've got to be there by 3, and then I'm there tomorrow, then down to Cardiff. So unfortunately, I'll have to leave at 11 o'clock. I'm sorry.
Don't forget to take your camera with you, Owen. Any declarations of interest? I can't see any hands being raised. No. So item number 3 is notice of urgent matters. I haven't received any notification of any urgent matters. So we go on to item number 4, which is the minutes of the Fire Authority meeting held on the 28th of April. So we'll deal with them in terms of accuracy to begin with. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11. I can't see any hands being raised, so I presume that you accept the accuracy of the minutes of the last meeting. Can I have somebody to propose that we accept the minutes? Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Austin. Will you show that you accept the minutes of the last meeting? Diolch yn fawr. Those have been accepted. Item number 5 is matters arising from the minutes of the last meeting. I can't see any specific matters that arise from the last meeting that aren't on today's agenda, unless anybody has anything that they can see that they want to raise from the last meeting. Can't see any hands being raised. In that case, we move on to item number 6, which is the Chair's report. So you will have received my report for the work that myself and the Deputy Chair, or the former Deputy Chair, have done over the last quarter. It's been a really busy last quarter. I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions in relation to that report. Councillor Gareth Sandilands?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the interviews of the interviews we took place of the Assistant Chief Fire Officers. I have to say all of them were of really high standards, and it was great to see that they were all internal candidates coming up through the ranks. So congratulations to the Fire Authority to having such good candidates.
And I certainly echo those comments, and we'll be coming on to that item a bit later. So I can't see any other hands being raised. Can I have somebody to propose that we accept the Chair's report, please? Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Gareth. Will you show that you're all in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. So we go on to item number 7, which is the Independent Cultural Review Update. And I think it's the Chief that's going to be speaking to this item. Diolch, Chief.
Diolch yn fawr. Good morning, everybody. And this is now going to be one of the standard agenda items at our Fire Authority meetings. And you may recall the last time I reported, we were having a different approach to our action planning. Instead of immediately rushing to make a plan and have a top-down approach, we continued in listening mode. That listening mode was about hearing what people had to say, their reaction to the independent review, and all their suggestions. So we presented the Independent Cultural Report at the Service Leadership Team meetings, at the seminar for our middle leaders. We asked for people to email in their suggestions. We held focus groups with our employees. The Staff Engagement Forum took the report and analysed it, and so did our network groups. So everybody's ideas and opinions were really welcome. And it is important because although culture can be influenced by the top of an organisation, the Fire Authority, Service Leadership Team, it's everybody in the service that experiences and creates the culture of North Wales Fire and Rescue Service. So we took all those suggestions and we are beginning to use AI in limited way. So we put all those suggestions together and then we sense checked it by a human, because that's really important, in order to create the high-level strategic cultural improvement plan. And this plan, as I say, sets out the high-level areas that were highlighted to us in the independent review. And then under this plan, we've put a much more detailed action plan, which has been allocated to different committees with a responsible person and timescales attached to it. The strategic improvement plan has not only been examined by the Service Leadership Team in the form of the Cultural Improvement Board, and you'll recall that on this board, the Chair of the Fire Authority, Councillor Dylan Rees, and Councillor Dolman, as the Equalities Champion, sits on this board, as does a representative of Welsh Government. And we are also seeking to attract an independent cultural expert to participate on the board. So this plan has been through that board. It has also been scrutinised by the executive panel, and it is here today for final endorsement by the full Fire and Rescue Authority. In addition to this plan, we have moved on a number of activities in order to improve the culture of the organisation. And you can see those activities all listed in the paper. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I would just like to maybe give a little bit more information about one or two. One of them you can see is the Chief Fire Officer met with Bron Biddle from the Association of Ambulance Chief Executives. Now, Bron was actually introduced to us by Welsh Government. She's done extensive work across the ambulance services in the UK with regards to culture and also sexual safety. And we could see how some of her work can certainly map across to what we want to try and achieve. So we've commissioned her workshop, which is called The Wolf We Feed. In other words, the way we talk, the way we act, that gives the permission to people around us to talk and act in the same way. And we very much look forward to that workshop later on this year. I won't talk about the emergency cover review and the collaborative agreement, but we do, because that's on the agenda later on. But we are really proud of that. We're proud of the work that's been underdone in full social partnership in order to come up with that agreement. And we've also gone on fact-finding missions to find out how other organisations are taking their cultural journey, because we know that we can learn a lot from others. And we're also looking at a lot of our policies, which have already been updated in many ways, just to make sure that they are aligned with best practice. And again, we're using organisations who've already done this before in order to help us craft those new policies. So that's my update report, Cavariad. I'm happy if any members want to ask any questions or indeed comment on the progress so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And as you mentioned, this report has already been considered by the executive panel. Can I invite members if they've got any comments or queries, please? Councillor Markian.
Thank you, Chair. And if you read it, a lot of work, really good progress, but just a couple of questions, if I may, Chief, please. So the report is very honest. It talks about a lack of accountability and transparency among some leaders. And I just want to know how we're going to independently verify this to ensure the cultural changes are not just symbolic, but embedded, please. If you can answer that one first, please.
Yes. And this is really difficult, isn't it? How do you measure the feel of an organisation? How do you measure everybody's experiences on a day-by-day basis? And that's what some of the work that we've been doing with Gloucestershire Fire and Rescue Service, because they have developed a dashboard in which they track certain indicators that try and reveal the culture of their organisation and the progress. So it will be around sickness levels, it will be around complaints. You know, in fact, in many ways, complaints are a good sign, because people feel that they can come forward and they can have their issues resolved. So we'll be putting together that dashboard and we'll be presenting that at the Cultural Improvement Board.
And great, just one more quick one, please, Chair Jokovow. So obviously, if staff wish to report any issues anonymously, what channels are they just to do that? Because I think that's important. And they obviously don't want to be in fear or worry about any reprisals. So just that one, and then thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. So we have the whistleblowing policy, but we also have our confidential line, which people can either submit their concerns either anonymously or with their name. Obviously, it is much easier to then investigate if people have come forward and identified themselves, because we can talk through what the issue is. But even if it is anonymous, we will still take it seriously and we will still investigate it. So we do have mechanisms in order to be able for people to feel that they can tell us their concerns without having to reveal their name, should they not wish to.
Okay, Jokovow, and it's really good the action's completed today. It's good work, so thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Chief. Any other questions or comments? Can't see any other hands being raised. So the recommendations before you are that we approve the Strategic Cultural Improvement Plan and note the next steps on the cultural journey of the service. Mark, I think you're proposing. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Paul Cunningham. Will you all show that you approve the recommendations? Diolch yn fawr. That's unanimously passed. So we move on to item number 8, which is the Training Centre project update. And over to ACFO Justin Evans. Brother da, Justin.
Oh, God, diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. So this paper presents to members an update on our Training Centre project, outlining our recent activity. The project continues at pace, with our project team focusing on procurement, stakeholder communications, design development, technical surveys, ecology, and developing our fully costed options. There's some key developments in the work which I'd like to bring to the attention of members today. Firstly, we've completed a compliant procurement process for our primary design consultants, and I can confirm that we've executed contracts with Perfect Circle, which we obtained through the SCAPE framework, and following due diligence, supported by our advisors at VWV, we signed contracts earlier this month. Now, this appointment secures one of our key delivery partners and confirms the core team for the design and the build activity of the project. That appointment has led to the start of our formal design programme. So our first workshops there have brought together architects, mechanical and engineering experts, BREEAM assessors, ecologists and staff representatives. And the first sessions have agreed our ambition for a carbon neutral BREEAM excellent facility and has set the draft critical path for REBA stage 1, which we are on target to deliver by November this year. In terms of our stakeholder engagement, we've been speaking with our local neighbours. So we've hand-delivered letters to nearby residents and businesses. These outlined our initial works, and we've also invited them to an open invitation session later this summer. So this has allowed us to have face-to-face conversations, give some background about what it is we hope to achieve and the context to our ambition for the training centre. The letters we sent did advise that clearance works on site will be commencing in earnest. However, we have had some challenges around ecology at the site, so there has been a slight delay in works commencing, so we will be making sure we communicate that to our neighbours. Our project team is also taking steps for early engagement with locally elected members, and that will ensure transparency and that we capture feedback and the views of our local community before we commence our planning activity. And we continue to involve all our staff. We have working groups with operational crews and corporate teams, and these groups allow us to capture our draft detailed user specifications and the requirements for the site. So in terms of the site itself, we've completed the majority of our required technical surveys now. These include topographical, ground penetration radar, checks for existing utilities, unexploded ordnance, arboricultural and health and safety exclusion planning. And with regard to ecology, we face some delays, as I mentioned, with the planned site clearance. Members will recall we've had lots of conversations about great crested newts on site and how we would need to require a licence and undertake work to clear the site of the newts. But in our preparations for that work, a nest of Schedule 1 little ring plovers was discovered near the proposed access route. So what this means is, under wildlife legislation, we now must avoid machinery-based site clearance until the chicks fledge, which is likely to be in late August. So we can continue with some low-impact manual works elsewhere, but this constraint could extend the clearance phase by several weeks, which would then have a knock-on for our programme. We're monitoring this daily and we're developing our plans to mitigate for this potential delay, which will include any potential seasonal adjustments. So in terms of our design activity, we continue with our cost modelling and options for the site. As listed within the paper, we've commissioned national cost benchmarking for 4 build options, and these are for the training centre only, the training centre plus HQ, training centre plus corporate functions, and training centre with residential accommodation. And these scenarios will feed into our shortlist and feed directly into the outline business case to ensure affordability and value for money. Now, it's really important that as we develop the full business case, that we demonstrate that all options are being considered. So it's just as important to show what we haven't included and the reasons why it hasn't been included just as much as what have. So some of those options that I just read through there may be different from what members have previously been presented. Our key milestones are detailed within the paper. The next key milestones for us are the finalisation of the design brief, which we achieved by the end of August, and the completion of the REBA stage 1 and outline business case in mid-November. So subject to the ecology, gateway and statutory approvals, we remain on track for a 2027 construction start. So the project is not without risks, and currently the key risk to the programme is a delay due to ecology, as I've discussed, and also obviously the uncertainty around funding arrangements and balancing what our ambitions are against potential cost. Now, we mitigate that through strengthening governance, having dedicated budget oversight, and ensuring that we have contingency within our cost modelling. So just to sum up, the next steps for us are finalise and improve the design brief by the end of August, progress our REBA stage 1 and submit the outline business case by mid-November, continue our engagement locally, advance our cost option analysis, and obviously manage our ecology, mitigate the impacts of that. And this project remains a strategically important project for us. It addresses operational risk, our needs of our future workforce, and our commitment to ongoing sustainability. Securing our delivery partner and completing these essential surveys is making sure that we have a clear set route to developing the design and the business case and planning moving forward. So the recommendation within the report is that members note the current progress of the project. Diolch Cadeirydd, that's the end of my update, and I'm happy to take any questions from members.
Thank you, Justin. I have to confess my wildlife ignorance. I didn't know what a plover was, but there we go. Any questions or comments for Justin, please? I can't see any hands being raised. In that case, can I have a proposer and a seconder that we note the report, please? Thank you, John Brynmore. Thank you, Gareth Sandilands. Will you all show that you note the report? Diolch yn fawr. So that takes us up on to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 9, the emergency cover review, and over to ACFO Anthony Jones. Bore da, Ant.
Bore da, diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This report is to provide members with an update since our last presentation to yourselves in April in relation to the emergency cover review and the ongoing work of our task and finish group. So this was set up in response to the recommendation on the 20th of January that we continue to work with our representative bodies within our agreed budgets to address emergency cover in our rural areas. And I'm really pleased to say that we've made some really significant progress. So since April 2025, we have implemented a smaller subgroup of the emergency cover review, which is purely focused on implementation of our collective agreement, which is attached to this paper. This collective agreement was a significant achievement for the service, and that collaborative working with our representative bodies and staff, because not only has it been signed off at a local level, but this has also received regional and national level sign off with the Fire Brigade Union. So a true strength in our collaborative and social partnership working. So this smaller group now is working again with our representative bodies from the Fire Brigade Union and officers from our transformation team to implement the collective agreement that we've now have in place. And that collective agreement primarily is to improve the self-resilience within our current duty systems across our 8 hold-time stations and day crewing stations. And this was an idea brought to us by staff. I'm really pleased to say that this agreement we have agreement in principle of the implementation of this collective agreement. So that includes the rostering policies and procedures. And we plan to present these formally at our next joint trade union meeting on the 6th of August. So this again is a terrific piece of work by all involved, that we've taken the agreement and now we've got a process and a plan in place to implement this collective agreement. Once we implement this agreement, it will give us the ability within our current cost envelope to look at how we can use additional capacity within our firefighters and our staffing to improve emergency cover across the whole of North Wales. So the collective agreement is planned to be implemented now on the 2nd of September. And again, that's based on staff feedback that with the rota patterns of our duty systems, it makes more sense to start that on the 2nd of September. And communication is really key. And we've been really positively making sure our communication with support of our corporate comms team and again with our representative bodies to keep staff informed, because we know how concerning this change is for them. We've got a dedicated web page on our Hub TAN with lots of frequently asked questions and answers that hope to give staff that reassurance that we have them in our mind at this time of change. I'm also really pleased to inform members that At the same joint trade union meeting, we're also hoping to agree the implementation of a pilot of our nucleus crewing. So this is a new model for us, and we plan to introduce this model at Porthmadog and Dolgellau fire stations, hopefully again from early September. Here we'll see whole-time firefighters supporting our on-call firefighters in making those fire engines at those stations available during the weekday. That challenge that we've always had, and that if you like, at the heart of the emergency cover review, the primary aim, will put whole-time firefighters in those rural areas. Again, this is a pilot, and this is again as a result of a fantastic amount of hard work from all of those involved. And I want to pass my thanks on to everybody involved to get us to this point. The work continues at pace. The communication is key, that we continue that, and your members will see that across the service. But we're positively moving forward with the implementation of our collective agreement and also the pilot of this nucleus crewing system. This report hasn't been presented to either the executive panel or audit committee previously, and members are asked to note that officers have continued to work with representative bodies in social partnership to develop a way forward with the emergency cover review. You're asked to note the progress that has been made in signing of the collective agreement by the Fire Brigade Union. We ask that you note the continued effort of all parties to progress a solution and introduce a pilot to demonstrate the self-sufficiency of the staffing levels at the current whole-time fire stations. And also to note that by demonstrating this self-sufficiency, that there is scope to introduce pilots to utilise existing establishment budgets to improve emergency cover model across rural North Wales, which I hope I've described. So we're very happy to take any questions and pleased to provide you this update. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ant, and congratulations again to all concerned in actually having achieved this collective agreement, which is real progress. I can see a couple of hands being raised, but before, can I just ask one question? So with this pilot, with the nucleus crewing, I did see that adverts had been placed inviting people to become members of these new nucleus crews. What's the response so far? Are we getting the interest that's needed to be able to run the pilot?
Yeah, Diolch. Yeah, and thank you for raising that. Yes, we put out. We were careful how we communicated this. We made sure that we spoke with the stations involved first, because it's really important that they understand this change. But yes, we've reached out to our existing whole-time firefighters. We've reached out to on-call firefighters that might express an interest to migrate to cover this pilot, and we're also looking to increase our WDS rural or whole-time rural cohort to a full establishment, so that we can really trial those two pilots together. We are still collecting that feedback. We are still collecting those expressions of interest, but we do feel confident we'll have the numbers that we require to implement the pilot.
Excellent, thank you, Ant. Councillor Aaron Roberts-Aaron.
Ie, diolch yn fawr iawn am y adroddiad. Un cwestiwn sgen i yn sôn
Thank you
am
for the report. I have one question talking about staff here. Just out of interest, where are we? A year later, we've had so many recruitment evenings within the RDS. Is this going to have an impact? Have a lot of people joined the service within the last year? I'd like to know what the percentage is, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And apologies, I don't have an exact percentage to give you today, but I can certainly get you that information. But what I can tell you is that we continue, we still have our recruitment availability teams working across the region, and we are seeing an increase in our retained or our on-call staff members, i.e. where we have staff leaving us, and we tend to see between 50 and 60 staff members leave us per year. We are managing to recruit more than that each year, and we've managed to consistently achieve that over the past few years. The continual challenge we have with our on-call teams is, of course, if we lose experienced and qualified and trained personnel, when we employ people to replace them, it takes us some time to get those new staff members skilled and to the same level of operational competence as the staff we've sadly lost. So our recruitment and retention and our training of our staff, our on-call staff, is a continual piece of work for us. It's the one that we very much focus on. The emergency cover review is designed to work alongside those existing pieces of work, that existing policies and processes, but to give us a better starting point and put whole-time firefighters in our rural areas to give us that guaranteed cover during the weekday, which continues to be our challenge. That sort of Monday to Friday 9 to 5 is the real challenge for us. Our evening on-call cover is really strong, and our weekend cover is certainly better, and our evening weekends are really strong. So we have the same challenge that most services or all services that have on-call team members have, in that Monday to Friday 9 to 5 is our real challenge. But we continue to make positive progress, but I don't actually have a percentage for you, but I can get that.
Okay, diolch yn fawr, thank you.
I think the chief may want to come in at this point. Diolch.
Just to add to what Ant has said, and he will get you a percentage. I did inquire about how many retained firefighters we had recruited over the last 3 years, and that was in the region of 230. So you can see there's a significant amount of work going into recruiting. Unfortunately, we do lose a number, but we have seen a substantial net increase, so that's good.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor Gareth Sandilands.
Yeah, thank you. It is great to see the collaboration, the greater collaboration we have with unions now compared with what it was 12 months ago. I'm sure you'll agree that that relationship is key. I'm just looking at ongoing, this is an ongoing process like all relationships. So I'll be looking at that in the future. Can we look at the clear timelines to monitor the pace of change that we're doing this? Because it's got to be a balanced pace of change. We can't go too quickly because we've got to take everybody with us. But at the same time, we've got to do this. It is an ongoing conclusion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And 100% right. We were very cognizant of the fact, the need to make sure that we did this over a manageable length of time to allow staff to adapt and work with the change, but also to monitor and review it. So we have established, we've agreed and established quarterly monitoring with our colleagues with the Fire Brigade Union, and also that's why we are planning for the pilot to last at least the duration of 2026 and possibly even the following year, to make sure that we do it at a pace of change, that when we come to hopefully make a decision to turn a pilot into a permanent business as usual, the staff have come with us on that journey. We've had the opportunity to learn as we go through the pilot, iron out those creases, if you like, but also agree a permanent working process that we've tried and tested.
Okay, thank you for that.
Cynghorydd Gwynfor Owen.
Diolch yn fawr. Mae tarodristwch i ddechrau mi wedi bod yr
Thank you.
adroddiad
It's
yma
a matter of sadness to me that this report has taken so long to produce. I'm not blaming anybody, but we need to remember that we are trying to bring about a better provision across North Wales, including rural areas. This is the whole purpose of this, and of course, it's taken over 2 years now for this to come to fruition. In the meantime, we still have a worse service in rural areas of North Wales compared to the more urban areas. As I say, I welcome the fact that we have now reached this position. I will be keenly interested in how the pilot works. And I'm not saying for a second that this is a reason, but we've had a few bad fires in rural areas recently, and one has to question whether the response might have been different had this been ratified over 2 years ago. Also, moving on to the pilot schemes, I have a lot of interest in how they will work. One strength, of course, I don't know whether they'll be the same people, or whether we'll have different staff working in the rural stations from 1 week to the next. The strength in having a stable team, of course, is that they know the addresses and they know where they need to go. They're not reliant on any sort of sat-nav or anything to take them to the right place. They just know their areas, and I'm very happy to see that an offer was made to on-call staff. I hope there will be ample on-call staff to direct people to the right places. Therefore, I would welcome the pilot as it's being implemented.
Thank you so much for the question, and I think there's two salient points there that I hope I address for you. So we have continued to maintain our 18 pump response model throughout the past 2 years, and I do agree that it has taken some time to get to this point, but where we were through the consultation and the less than positive industrial relations, we're now in a far more stronger position in relation to our industrial relations. We're working really, really closely with Terry and Rebecca, the chair and the secretary for the Fire Brigade Union, and taking staff with us on the journey. But I do understand and empathise that this has taken some time. But I would like to reassure that we have maintained our 18 pump model throughout this time. In relation to the nucleus crewing model, then yes, the vision is that we will have the same staff allocated to those stations for the duration of the pilot, because what I'm striving for is to get motivated staff that want to be at those stations to support the on-call teams. So whereas during the consultation, we were looking at putting whole-time firefighters sort of 7 days a week, 12 hours a day at these stations, what we're now doing is looking for a more blended model where we have a far smaller team of sort of 5 whole-time firefighters that will support and work with the on-call staff. So building on that local knowledge, and work with them to make their pump available during the day, essentially Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, with those times that we really struggle, but do that in partnership with the on-call staff at those stations. So very much building on their local knowledge. Those teams will be appointed. The plan is permanently during this pilot to those stations so they can build their local knowledge. We'll very much capitalise on the fact that we will have whole-time firefighters in those rural areas so they can increase and do more prevention work, protection work, risk mitigation work, working with the communities and becoming part of those communities. So it is very much a pilot. So, I have to be honest, we don't know what we don't know at this stage, but certainly some of your concerns and thoughts there are very much in our planning, that we want these new firefighters to be part of that community and support the existing firefighters there to make those pumps available.
Thank you, Ant. Diolch. Cynghorydd John Brynmawr.
Iawn. Diolch am yr adroddiad a dwi'n sylwi bod ti'n
Thank you
cymryd
for the
amser.
report, and I realise it's taken a long time.
To think that 2 years ago we were nearly debating closing the Abersoch station. So with a new drive to recruitment, that we have been successful here, and I hope it carries on, because now we have got a crew, and that we have more interest in the fire service here than we've had before. So I think the recruiting program has been a success, especially here. Diolch yn fawr.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't see any other hands being raised, so ACFO Anthony Jones has presented you with the 4 recommendations that accompany this report. Can I propose a thank you, Mark? Can I have a seconder? Diolch Arwen. Will you all show that you accept the recommendations? Diolch yn fawr. Diolch Ant. So we move on to item number 10 on the agenda, which is the draft statement of accounts for 2024-25. I know that ACFO Helen MacArthur is going to present this, but can I invite David as the treasurer to say a few words to begin with? Diolch yn fawr, David.
Diolch Cadeirydd, ac llongyfarchiadau i...
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations to you and your fellow councillors on your appointments today, and to the 2 assistant chief officers. I enjoyed working with them on a temporary basis over a difficult period, and this is really appreciated. I believe that the report and the statements have been before the Audit Committee already, and they have scrutinised the contents. It doesn't have to go to the authority in its pre-audit form, and really there is no statutory requirement for you as an authority to be approving the statement in its pre-audit form. It might be prudent to do so, just to sign them off, but one must, well, the authority lies with me to approve the draft. I have done this in accordance with the statutory timeline before it goes to the audit committee. As your treasurer, the authority or someone else who's been given delegated authority they will need to approve the final accounts following the audit, and I believe that is the main purpose in presenting this to you today, that the authority delegates this power to the audit committee to accept and approve the final statements. No, not the audit committee, I beg your pardon, the executive panel to approve the statement in its final form after the audit, but they are here for information today, and I think Helen would like to run through some aspects of them, but really the audit committee has looked at these, and half of you were involved with this already. Helen.
Diolch, David. I'm not sure that I have a huge amount to add to that, really. As David has already said, these accounts have been to the audit committee. We prepare them each year, and we are required as part of the accounting audit regulations to prepare them by the 31st of May, and then they go to Audit Wales and they're audited by the 31st of July. That's set out in the regulations. These deadlines were relaxed during COVID by the Welsh Government, and currently those deadlines are the 30th of June for production of the draft accounts and sign off by the 31st of August. I think I would like to start really by expressing my thanks and gratitude to the Finance Department and really acknowledge their hard work. And I'm pleased to be able to report that we not only achieved the statutory deadline, we achieved it by one day. So the accounts were presented and signed to David by the 30th of May, and they're now currently with Audit Wales. I would say this is a notable achievement, given that we have a relatively small team, but what it does is enables the team now to focus on both this financial year and also to start the planning for the next financial year. So it's that period where we're actually juggling 3 financial years. As you look through the accounts, they are, out of necessity, a very technical document, and that's to comply with the SIPFA Code of Accounting. Runs to 82 pages, and therefore some elements may not look terribly familiar. I'd recommend a really good starting point would be for all members to read the narrative report, which runs from page 2 to 18, because that not only provides a summary of our financial position, both for the revenue and the capital, but it also provides an overview of our operating capacity in terms of stations, resources, activity, but it links to other key documents, including such things as the Community Risk Management Plan and the Performance Report. I will touch very, very briefly on the financial aspects, and I'll start with our financial performance in terms of our revenue and capital outturn positions. So the overall revenue position is an underspend of £293,000, and that's following all of the contributions to and from reserves and capital financing. So during the financial year, we actually benefited from additional income in relation to support from the Welsh Government for payroll costs, grant funding for road safety initiative, and also pension funding. And members will recall that was a real risk to us, that our employee contributions had gone up, and we were worried that we wouldn't actually get funding. We've also experienced a number of underspends, mainly due to vacancies associated with difficult to recruit posts, also higher than expected or normal levels of retirement. As a consequence of the capital programme being slightly delayed, our capital financing costs were lower than budgeted, but there will be a period of catch-up as the capital programme catches up. Following the closure of the 24-25 financial year, the authority has usable reserves of 10.9 million, and I would refer you to note 8 of the accounts, and that's located on page 36, which provides a breakdown of reserves, and the audit committee went through those. The capital programme for 24-25 was 5.6 million, and during the course of the year, a further £3 million was approved for the land purchase. And in addition to that, we were successful in securing grant funding for the purchase of fireground radios, decarbonisation of Llandudno fire station, and also a number of electrical vehicles. And that grant funding really takes the pressure off the capital programme. That said, we did have some delays, and we're proposing to roll over £2.6 million of capital expenditure into this financial year. Looking at the financial position of the authority, that's reflected in the balance sheet, and that's located on page 28 of the accounts. We have assets with a net book value of over 61 million, and that largely relates to our buildings and our vehicles. And I'm pleased to confirm that we operated within our borrowing limits with year-end debt of 19 million. We've worked really, really hard over the last few years to manage our debt, in part due to increased interest rates. In that respect, we take advice from Arlene Close to provide support across the public sector. Our liquidity remains good, and our year-end cash was 2.5 million. I would, however, like to draw members' attention to the pension liability on the balance sheet, and that is currently 208 million. And that's based on an actuarial assessment of the pension fund liabilities relating to the firefighters' pension scheme. As you'll be aware, this is an unfunded scheme, so we don't have assets, which means that the liability sits on the balance sheet. As David has confirmed, the accounts were considered by the Audit Committee at its meeting on the 16th of June, and the Audit Committee endorsed the contents. The audit of accounts is currently in progress, and so far no issues have been raised that I would need to draw your attention to. So unless there are any questions, I'd like to seek your approval of the unaudited revenue and capital outturn position, note the unaudited balance sheet position, approve the movement to and from reserves, and also approve the delegation of authority for the audited statements to be signed off by the executive panel. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Yeah, Helen, any questions or comments for Helen? As has been pointed out by David and Helen, this report has been already scrutinised by the Audit Committee. David, ydych chi eisiau dod nôl I fewn?
Ie, just I cadarnhau nath Helen ddeud
Yes,
diolch
just to confirm, paragraph 7 of the report notes the fact that Mark, as chair of the Audit Committee, and myself thanked the finance staff for their detailed work and to get this ready for the Audit Committee meeting. And I would like to echo this today and to afford them this profile. I think we're so fortunate of our finance staff members within the authority, and I am rather proud of them in getting this out on time. I agree 100%. Thank you, Gareth.
Can't see any hands being raised, so in that case, can I have a proposer that we accept the 4 recommendations before you? Thank you, Mark. Diolch, Gareth. Will you all show that you agree? Diolch yn fawr, that's been passed. So we move on to item number 11, which is the governance statement for 2024-25. And I think, Ant, it's over to you to present this report.
Yes, thank you very much. The purpose of this report is to present members of the Fire Authority the draft annual governance statement, which we are required to produce by the Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2014. To inform members that we have submitted this to Audit Wales for their review on the 31st of May this year, as per the regulations. And these regulations require the authority to publish an annual governance statement. And that statement demonstrates that we are conducting our business in accordance with the relevant laws and regulations, that we are looking to safeguard and properly account for public money. We're using our resources economically, efficiently and effectively, and to the benefit of our local people. So as I mentioned, the draft version of this needed to be submitted to Audit Wales for their feedback, and that was achieved by the 31st of May deadline. I'm just asked members to note that we will be representing the final version of the annual governance statement to the Audit Committee in September and the full Fire Authority in October, following that feedback and any amendments from Audit Wales. So this year's draft annual governance statement is attached for your review. We did present it to Audit Committee on the 16th of June, where no observations were made, and members are asked to agree the proposed actions for the 25-26 year, and to note that the annual governance statement, the draft version, was submitted to Audit Wales prior to the 31st of May deadline. Diolch yn fawr iawn, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
Diolch, Hans. Any questions or comments? As has been pointed out, this also has been considered by the Audit Committee. I can't see any hands being raised. In that case, can I have a proposer, please? Diolch, John Brynmore, and a seconder. Diolch, Gareth. Will you all show that you approve the recommendations? Diolch yn fawr. So we go on to item number 12 now, which is the Performance Monitoring Report, April 2024 to March 2025. And I think it's Area Manager Mike Plant who's going to present this. Bore da, Mike.
Bore da, Cadeirydd, bore da pawb. Diolch am y cyfle i mynd drwy yr adroddiad bore yma.
For the opportunity to go through the report this morning.
So the purpose of the report is to provide comparative data regarding to the North Wales Fire Rescue Authority's 5 principles for keeping communities safe, which is front and centre on the main report that you've been able to have a look at, namely the people prevention, protection, response and environment, and how we get the balance between those to keep our communities safe, and how we look at our activity levels and how they relate to those different principles. Going on from that, the purpose, of course, is to highlight any emerging trends in both increased, reduced, or any new demands from things like emerging technologies or any other issues that may be identified. And also to look at the development of new or revised activities to mitigate any increasing and emerging demand and risk. So the the executive summary. The number of fire incidents has increased throughout 2024-25 with 1,801 fires attended, which is an increase of 8.5% compared with the same period last year. The number of false alarm incidents does continue to rise with 3,263 incidents attended, an increase of 12.4% compared with the same period last year. And the number of accidental dwelling fires attended remained roughly the same as last year, with 338 incidents attended. So this information was presented to the executive panel recently, and we'll go into some of the observations from the executive panel when they questioned us as to why some of these things have occurred. So it was presented to the executive panel on the 16th of June 2005. Members noted the report and asked several questions on a variety of the areas of performance, including our safe and well check completions. There was some questions and some discussion on on-call availability, and also some really positive comments back on our youth engagement activities, highlighting the positive impact on a lot of the services prevention activities across the piece, which was lovely to receive. There's only one recommendation as part of this report, Mondin Argymelliad. It's recommended that members note the content of the performance monitoring report, and just the last section on information, unless otherwise stated, all the figures are based on the combined 4 quarters of the 2024-25 financial year, and the comparisons are made for the same period of the previous financial year for ease, 2023-24. So, and again, obviously the main detail is in the accompanying report that we've all had access to. So, diolch yn fawr am eich amser, and I'd take any questions at this point if applicable.
Diolch yn fawr, Mike. I can see that Councillor Paul Cullingham has got his hand up first, and then Councillor Brian Apsley. Over to you first, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I know you mentioned the youth, getting messages across to the youth. I think we are doing well with the Phoenix courses that we run. I think we're doing well with the cadets that we're running. And all around, fire safety in the home is being pushed. But my biggest concern these days are the number of fires occurring in properties with tumble dryers. And I know that we're getting the message across. Are we getting the message across enough to deter people from leaving their tumble dryers overnight, defluffing them and things like that? But otherwise, excellent report. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All I can say is that on behalf of Paul Kay and the area manager with responsibility for prevention and protection, that there's a huge amount of work that goes on education, not just within people's homes, but also in businesses. I know myself previously doing that role. One of the things that we do as part of reviewing their fire risk assessment and the regulatory reform fire safety order is look, especially the large commercial type tumble dryers as well, how they maintain and look after them, and all the things you just mentioned, Councillor. And I know that's also a key part of the safe and well check when our staff go out and visit people in their homes, as well as checking the smoke detectors are working, etc. They go through nighttime routines, making things such as all electrical items really, but in particular tumble dryers, etc. are switched off, and that's all recorded. Also, a high level as part of the campaign steering group, there are a lot of campaigns that do focus on things like kitchen safety at certain times of the year. So there is a huge amount of educational work that has been implemented.
Thank you, Mike. Councillor Brian Apsley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and congratulations. I was wondering whether the executive had asked questions about the increase in fires of 8.5%. If my memory is correct, over the last few years, we've been on the way down in the number of fires. And also whether questions asked about the false alarms, because, 12.4% is quite considerable, isn't it? We wouldn't want to do that year on year. So I just wondered whether there were answers given to, or questions and answers given to the increase in the fires and reason for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So in a way, there's an argument to say that we're probably a little bit victims of our own success, in that there's been a huge amount of work done on identifying vulnerable people within the community, those that are at higher risk. And I was only speaking the other day to one of our home safety support workers, who says that when they interact with these individuals now, some of the complexities and the length of those visits increase significantly. So one of those things is obviously that they will, anybody that's high risk like that they will work with the family or the individual to have the care line systems, etc., installed to protect that individual, remove and amongst a suite of other things. In that instance, of course, we're actually having more and more of these types of systems out there, and of course, sometimes people will, burn the toast or something like that. And if they can't be contacted in a certain amount of time, then we will be mobilised to that incident. So there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. And I think the ACFO, Anthony Jones, is going to mention something on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, just in support of Mike, in relation to the incident increase, we obviously continually monitor our incident performance on a quarterly basis. It is something we are seeing nationally, not just only in North Wales. And we do feel that, for example, this year in particular, we have seen an increase in wildfires, which you'll be very, very aware of. So that we do believe is part of that challenge. In relation to those care line calls, as Mike rightly says, this is something that members have raised as a concern with us probably for at least 12 months or so now. And we have been working quite significantly. Mike mentioned Paul Kay, our head of prevention. Himself and his team have been working with our care line providers because we recognise the challenge. Now there is a sort of pros and cons to this, because more and more people and members of our community are getting care lines provided and fitted to their homes, which is great because it means that we've got early detection in the event of an incident. But of course, what comes with that is we are seeing more activations. But each activation is an opportunity for us to engage with that family and that household to do that safe and well check, like Mike mentioned. But equally, we don't want to keep going back to these addresses. So Paul and his team have very much been analysing the data. They've been doing a lot of partnership engagement, working with those care line providers to really understand which calls and what we're trying and minimise those false alarm activations. They're doing some very targeted prevention work, looking at those common causes, like Mike says, around cooking or faulty equipment, and to target those in our safe and well checks. They're also looking about our response, so how we respond to these, look at our protocols, exploring opportunities to reduce those unnecessary mobilisations. And then lastly, they're sort of focusing on those public education and training, like Mike has mentioned. So we are trying to enhance that public awareness around those common causes of false alarms, and working with providers and residents to try and mitigate and avoid those. So members have rightly challenged us on the increase in our care line and our false alarm numbers over the past 12 months or even 18 months. I want to reassure members that it's very much a priority for us. Some of it is within our control, which we are working actively, and some of it is without our control. We're working with partners and those providers. So it's very much a high priority for us also.
Thank you, and thank you for those questions, Brian. Did you have a supplementary, or are you satisfied with those answers?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the answers. I was just concerned the fact that it says that fires in dwellings remain the same, but Anthony mentioned wildfires, and were there any other aspects, because if the dwelling fires were the same, and the increase in fires was 8.5%, there may be other reasons. That's all.
Yeah, and thank you, Councillor, because I had to double check myself that a number of times, because it was quite a unique circumstance where it was literally exactly the same number of incidents attended last year as it was to this year. So, but I can continue to reassure you that we do actively monitor these.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Diolch. Cynghorydd Owen Roberts.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr iawn. Sgen i ddim cwestiwn, ond isio...
Yes, thank you. I don't have a question. I'd just like to echo what Paul said. The work undertaken with Phoenix, well, I visited on numerous occasions. Their work is excellent. And also this week, I've been visiting the cadets, and the work being undertaken there also is to be commended. But going back to what he was talking about as regards to tumble dryer fires and so forth, I've had an experience in our area recently, a house caught fire recently because of a tumble dryer, and there was a huge fire in the hotel in Blaenau, but the response time and the professionalism of the team that came out to fight the fire, they prevented the fire from spreading into the properties in Caernarfon and also into a church in Blaenau. So their professionalism and swiftness of response is to be commended. And I got a phone call from a lady in my ward. She was concerned about her smoke alarm. It was broken, and I got in touch with the service in Caernarfon, and within half an hour they were up there sorting things out. So the speed with which they respond to sort out these problems are highly commended. That's all I have to say.
As has been mentioned, this report has already been scrutinised by the executive panel. There was one action that was agreed following that evaluation, and that is request that data be included in future reports on how many high priority safe and well checks are being completed within the 28-day target. So that is an action that was agreed following the scrutiny of the report by the executive panel. I can't see any other hands being raised, so the recommendation is that we note the contents of the report. Can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Gareth. Will you all show that you're in agreement? Diolch yn fawr. So we go on to item number 13 on the agenda, which is the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor and Inspector of Wales Inspection Report. And I think it's back to you, Mike, to present this item. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Pwrpas y adroddiad, the purpose of the report, as the Chair has mentioned, is to provide an update following the publication of the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor and Inspector for Wales inspection report into our service in North Wales. The title was Inspection of North Wales Fire and Rescue Service to consider the effectiveness of its response to domestic dwelling fires. So executive summary to summarise, and we'll go a little bit more into detail this in the information section later. The Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor completed thematic inspections of the operational effectiveness of South Wales and Mid and West Wales Fire and Rescue Services prior to his visit to the North. That was in 2024 and January 2025 respectively. And he undertook a similar inspection here in North Wales Fire and Rescue Service early in 2025. So the three of these inspections resulted in a number of recommendations for each service, and as we'll state later on, very broadly similar, and that the recommendations broadly map against three main categories. The first and foremost was the need to actually evidence the fact that we've implemented or if not unable to implement certain recommendations, that's evidenced across the previous thematic reviews, which was a challenge in the first couple of inspections. Also, to look at the need to review operational guidance and some training programs in relation to how we respond to dwelling fires and the service's operational assurance policies and processes. In other words, how do we check that what we're training people and teaching people to do, they're actually doing correctly? So those are the broad themes, and there'll be a little bit more meat on the bones a bit later on. So when we presented this to the executive panel, an audit committee, the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor, Dan Stevens himself, attended and presented to the executive panel on the 16th of June 2025, and he was asked a number of questions in relation to how he'd gone about doing the audit, etc. So the recommendations of this particular report are that, firstly, the members note the content of the report, and secondly, note that the action plan has been put in place to consider the recommendations of the inspector's inspection. So just a little bit of background. Kevin did it help you a lot. We mentioned earlier in January 2025, he commenced the inspection of North Wales Fire and Rescue Service initially by a desktop review, basically looking at all our policies in relation to operational assurance, our standing operating procedures and training packages to see whether they married up to what his vision was. He furthermore completed a detailed review of all our dwelling fire incident logs as well that he obtained from our control between a pre-identified period of the 1st of April 2021 to the 31st of March 2023, giving him a broad enough data set to make comparisons and identify trends, etc. He attended service and some online as well to conduct a number of interviews with all the different duty systems, the on-call, firefighters, etc., and a focus group consisting of key stakeholders, for example, those who actually deliver operational assurance and training, etc. The inspection report was published in May 2025 and had a total of 6 recommendations, with each recommendation being time-bound. Since that time, the recommendations have been looked at and are included in an action plan that will be considered and managed via as part of our governance structure. It will go through the Services Organisational Learning Committee, chaired by ACFO Justin Evans, and that will make sure that there's an evidence trail for all the actions that are done against those recommendations. It's keen to note here as well, and the advisor emphasised this as well to the panel, the executive panel, that the recommendations for improvement were not intended and shouldn't be taken as a criticism of North Wales firefighters, officers, or their training instructors. He was keen to emphasise that because those individuals were doing their utmost to deliver the training that they believed to be correct at that time. As with everything else, things get reviewed and things can become amended. So, the back work about a little bit more information. The Fire and Rescue National Framework, the last time published was 2016, is what gives the provision for a chief fire and rescue advisor and inspector for Wales to undertake these reviews and provide information and findings to Welsh ministers, to yourselves as the Fire and Rescue Authority, and to the Auditor General for Wales on the topics that individuals should be so minded to look at. We mentioned earlier that they've carried out these inspections over a period of time of the last couple of years, starting off with South Wales and Mid and West, and that came from a request of the commissioners appointed in South Wales for certain thematic reviews to be implemented. We mentioned previously that they do broadly map across 3 categories, and that is where the focus has been. And each of those recommendations is time bound. So the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor as well, when he presented to Executive Panel, was keen to highlight that there were a lot of similarities found in things that he would like to see amended between the 3 services, some common themes, shall we say. And a lot of that was based on international research that we'll come on to imminently on how modern buildings act in fire, etc. He also mentioned that the 3 Welsh Fire and Rescue Services should look to address the similarities within the 2 inspections published at that time without predicating the outcome of the inspection report of this service, and that was done. In other words, we looked at what the other 2 services had been asked to do, and we started, the Organisational Learning Committee had already started to look at putting work in along those broad themes so that we were ahead of the game, so to speak. As part of that, my previous role, I was fortunate to be able to, and this one, to be able to visit the Netherlands Fire Service as part of a National Fire Chiefs Council review team to look at some of the amended training and tactics being done there. And the reason for going to the Netherlands is that there's a lot of scientific research being done across Europe and across the world, in fact, with some key individuals, and a lot of that learning and change to tactics has been adopted by that service following some firefighter fatalities 4 or 5 years ago. We also had a group looking at our overarching firefighting tactics on an all-Wales basis with meetings in Llandrindod Wells, so that some of the changes to standard operating procedures, if you like, or policies could be shared, and particularly with the resources that we have, that we were able to sort of collaborate and cross-pollinate with the other 2 services to take some of their work on. And a couple of other practical things in the report that have been done, and we started working on this prior to us receiving our own report because we knew it had been highlighted with the other 2 services, is that we are now fitting flow meters on all new fire engines that will help with the calculation of different flow rates that are needed for different kilowatt type fires, and also retrofitting some of our hose reels for a wider bore, which 19mm to 22mm, which will assist with that as well. Just at the end of there, it's also to be noted that the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor wrote to the Chief Fire Officer informing his intention to complete a thematic inspection of operational effectiveness moving forward, very similar to previous inspections. And just to confirm again that the inspection report of the service was published and considered by the executive panel on the previous meeting, and it was published on the 20th of May 2025. So I'd like to thank you for your attention. Diolch yn fawr am eich sylw. Can I ask if there's any questions at this point?
Over to members for questions or comments for Mike. Councillor Mark Young.
Diolch yn fawr, Chair. Yeah, excellent report. A lot of work in there, and we know these a lot of capacity issues within the authority with. So I guess the question is how this fits in with our priorities, because we're doing a lot as an authority, and making sure it's resourced. So is this extra work budgeted in forward financial plans? So two questions there. Diolch yn fawr, thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'll let the chief come in. Apologies.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
That's fine, Mike. You raise a very valid point, Councillor Young, that these are essential initiatives that we need to bring in. But in the meantime, we are also very much focused on the emergency cover review and the implementation of the pilots attached to that, and also the training centre. So we recognise the urgency that's required to make these changes, but we are going to have to agree the timescales with the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor. The funding, we will put that through the normal budget process, and as Mike has already said, we have been buying equipment that we know we need to have in the future. But as far as having the capacity to do some of the policy work and the training packages, we would look to try and do them on an all Wales basis with the other two fire and rescue services, given that we are facing the same challenges. So despite our limited resources, we will do the best we can in the timescales that we can set, but also to try and get extra capacity by working on an all Wales basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to add to the Chief's comments there, and obviously the report has implications for the additional training that's required, or the changes in techniques that's required to train our firefighters, which means that we do even more need a new training centre. So the Chief and myself are taking every opportunity that we have to lobby Welsh Government, please give us some additional funding to help us deliver the training centre project so that we can fulfil the recommendations that the Chief Fire Advisor is placing upon us. Ant, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's just to add further to the Chief and Mike that I'll be just to reassure the authority that I'll be taking this to the All Wales National Issues Committee for Operations next week in Cardiff on behalf of ourselves to get that joined up approach that the Chief mentioned there in relation to implementation of the changes we need to react to the inspection report and agree those timescales and those timeframes. I also attended the National Fire Chiefs Council Operational Preparedness, Resilience and Response Committee a couple of weeks ago, and I presented on this and our findings. And it's interesting to note that the NFCC are actually looking to Wales and looking to see how we respond to this, because the changes that the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor recommends in relation to changes to our policies and procedures of dealing with dwelling fires also has the National Operational Guidance for Fires and Firefighting have similar changes proposed. So whilst these are Welsh reports, UK FRS are looking to make these changes. And I think it's quite reassuring for me to see that the rest of the NFCC are actually looking to Wales to see how we respond and the best practice we can develop. So just to add a little bit of context. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ant. Councillor Paul Cunningham.
Thank you, Chair. Talking about all Wales training, it's just a comment, Chair and Chief. When we've got our training centre and the best training centre that we can get, and the best training centre we could hope for, then perhaps in time, we in North Wales could provide the training centre for the All Wales training that the Chief Fire and Rescue Advisor wants. So, you know, the more we push ahead and the more we push at our Welsh Government to give us funding for our training centre, the sooner the better, and let's hope we get the best training centre our firefighters deserve, never mind what the All Wales firefighters want. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul, for your long-term vision. Diolch yn fawr. I can't see any other hands being raised. You've heard the two recommendations that are before you. Can I have a proposer? Thank you, Mark. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, John Brynmore. Newch chi gyd ddangos when you all show. Thank you very much. So we go on to item number 14, which is the Firefighters Pension Schemes Discretionary Policy Statement. I think it's back to you, Helen, for this one. Diolch yn fawr.
It is indeed. Diolch, Cyfeirlydd. It relates to the Firefighters Pension Scheme, and by way of background, the scheme in Wales is devolved. It's a devolved function, and therefore the Welsh Government is responsible for drafting the regulations that relate to the scheme. These regulations provide the legal framework, and that largely prescribes the day-to-day functions, but also within the regulations, there are a number of discretionary elements. So therefore, it's important that each scheme manager looks at those discretions and actually determines a policy against them. Having done that, and we've done that previously, it's good practice to review and revise that on a regular basis. So the document presented today is a culmination of a number of months of work that's been undertaken in collaboration and in conjunction with South Wales Fire. We share a technical lead, and it makes good sense that we get into that detail collectively. You'll note from the document today that there are 3 schemes covered by the regulations. That includes both the 2 legacy schemes that are individually known as the 1992 scheme and the 2007 scheme. And they're the old final salary schemes, but it also covers the 2015 scheme, which is the current care scheme. You may wonder really why we've got 3 documents. We are required to have a discretionary policy pertaining to each scheme, but within that you'll see quite a lot of replication across the document. The discretions themselves are very, very varied in nature. They range from administrative functions covering the scheme as a whole through to the discretions in place that affect individuals. These have all been reviewed by the local pension board, and therefore I won't go into each discretion in detail, but what I will do is pick out a few of the key ones. So it's often cited that yourselves as scheme manager have the power to withhold pension in certain circumstances, and that's absolutely true, but those circumstances are very, very limited. So by way of an example, if a pension member or indeed one of their beneficiaries was incarcerated for murder, or indeed if there was fraud against the pension fund, you can do that, and we are seeking the discretion for that to happen. But what we're also saying is each case would need to be considered on a case-by-case basis. Similarly, where an individual joins the pension scheme from either another fire and rescue service or indeed from another employer, they have 12 months to transfer into our scheme. And again, we're seeking that discretion for that 12-minute time limit to be put in place, but also for that discretion to be used if there are extenuating circumstances that couldn't be fulfilled, then each case can be considered on its own merits. Similarly, we look at how the contributions are paid. So normally we deduct contributions from pensionable pay as and when we make the pay. But there may be occasions where that doesn't happen, and that might be due to the fact that somebody's absent from the workplace and they've got an entitlement to buy back pension, and they get a period of time to do that. I'd like to draw your attention to within the 2015 scheme to regulations 72 to 102. And these deal specifically with entitlement to pensions for dependents. And again, the discretions that we are seeking aim to get a balance between putting safeguards in place for the dependents and also safeguards in place for the scheme. In addition to that, ill health retirements, so the regulation requires that we can put an ongoing review of entitlement to an ill health retirement, including the frequency. And again, the discretion is going to be used, that we will find a balance between protecting the scheme and supporting individuals. That's not to make life difficult for individuals, but it does mean that we can revisit ill health retirements where the individual is below pension age. I'm happy to take any questions on any of the individual discretions, but you will note that a lot of the discretions are within the gift of the fire authority, but some of them also delegate down to the chief fire officer in consultation with the monitoring officer and also the treasurer. But we're seeking approval today, but I'm happy to take any questions on the individual discretions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Helen. I noticed in the chat that Councillor Paul Cunningham has declared an interest because he's a former firefighter in receipt of a pension. I presume, Gareth, if you can confirm that this is a personal interest and not a prejudicial interest? Yes, so that's fine. Any questions or comments in relation to the report? David, ydych chi eisiau dod i fewn? Diolch.
Diolch Cadeirydd, jyst gweld bod 'na ddim delay eraill i fyny, na I just gadarnhau
But answer the other raised hand, so I'll just confirm what paragraph 4 states, that this policy has been before the Pensions Board in its meeting in May. Much of it is rather complex, and I think we made a couple of tweaks to it, but a lot of work has been undertaken by officers, especially Kim, who has been working in conjunction with the South Wales on this, and we were given assurances that it was consistent with what they were putting forward, and many relevant officers had taken a look at this, and with those words, and myself as the chair of the Pensions Board recommend that you approve the statements. The pension scheme, to an extent, money comes in from salaries and money goes out in the form of pensions, and it's extremely complex how we reach this point. And paragraph 6 states that there are 3 or 4 different schemes that we're working with. It's very difficult for anyone to keep abreast with all aspects of this, but I do congratulate the officers on compiling a report that is solid, and I think every clause here represents common sense, so I recommend that you approve it.
So can I have a proposal that we approve the policy, please? Statement. Diolch yn fawr, Mark. Diolch yn fawr, John Brynmore. Will you all show? Diolch yn fawr. That has been passed. So we move on to item number 15, which is the Firefighters Pension Schemes Local Pension Board Annual Report for 2024-25. David, Jos ydych chi, dwi'n meddwl, chi sy'n cyflwyno'r adroddiad yma? Diolch.
Are you presenting this report, David? I won't keep you long at all, I don't think. We have the annual report of the Pension Board for 2024-25. The annual report itself is to be found in Appendix 1. It's been considered and approved by the Pension Board again at its meeting on the 15th of May. We recommend that you as an authority approve the annual report. So the authority, yourselves as a body, are the managers of the schemes. And the role of the board is to assist the authority as a scheme manager to ensure that the administration of firefighters' pension is administered effectively and efficiently and is compliant with legislation. The scheme manager is required to publish an annual report. This is what you have before you. I'm not going to take you through everything, but as with Helen in the previous item, I will allude to a couple of sections. And perhaps if you would kindly go to page 350 in the English version. Paragraph 2 of the report itself notes the role and the function of the board, as I've just explained, and This is done on behalf of the firefighters and pension regulators, in addition to all other stakeholders. This body does not take decisions. It's a critical friend of the authority, or to an extent. As with members of local authorities, it does the scrutiny work in a way. Membership of the board has been now expanded to 10, so 5 representing the employer, 5 representing the workers. And it gives great pleasure to say that the collaboration here, the previous item has highlighted, indeed, the collaboration between the staff and senior officers and how this has improved and how things are working rather harmoniously, I would say. And I can attest to this. I can confirm that the things work well within the board and everyone has a chance to make a contribution. The atmosphere is a good one. And the chief mentions the fact that we are walking the talk and empowering our staff members to behave as we do. And certainly people such as Dawn and Helen and others on this board do conduct themselves very well. And staff members on the board reflect this. And they attend the board meetings very positively. We had 4 meetings, as it mentions at the end of part 3, during the year. And as Section 5 mentions, the individuals on the board must have an understanding of the law around pensions, and they have undertaken training. And Section 6, we note, during this period, we considered a number of matters, and the legal challenge by MacLeod and O'Brien. The evaluation that is that's 5 years ago now, but during the past year, we have been dealing with the impact of this and the workers' contribution rate following the evaluation. And at all meetings, we consider the risks associated with the pension scheme. And the matters flagged up during the year include the legal challenges and the quorum of the board. We reduced it from 6 to 3 in order to ensure that we are able to move forward and take decisions if a number of people are unable to attend. So you have more details, agendas and minutes are to be found if you click on the link just above paragraph 8 in the report, and the programme of work has been outlined in the matrix beneath that. And this again covers legal challenges, including the dashboard pension. Now, the decision is due during the next year, and the pensions regulator and aspects of good governance, I think there will be further developments as regards good governance, and the policy update. This was dealt with in the first meeting that we had. So, with those few words, I will pause and give others the opportunity to ask a question. Thank you, David, for that overview. Helen, do you have any comments?
Apologies, Chair, I lost my microphone then, or my mouse. No, I just reiterate everything that David has highlighted. It's a well-functioning board. We do meet on the requisite number, which is 4 times a year. It is difficult to get that buy-in, but I think having the viewpoints of both the employer and the employee is invaluable, not only to the day-to-day functions of the scheme, but also in terms of the horizon scanning in the future. I think it's fair to say that the legal challenges have put an incredible strain on a very small department, but thankfully we're managing to work our way through it. So beyond that, I don't think I have anything to add to the comments that David has also made.
Thank you, Helen. Any questions or comments for David? I can't see any hands being raised. So can I ask that you will approve the local pension annual report? Diolch Gareth, diolch Ian. Thank you very much. That is passed. So we move on to the last item for discussion today, which is the ratification of appointments of principal officers. Gareth, I think you are introducing this item.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Yes, I will. So, councillors, as has been touched on earlier, there was recently there was an appointments panel, and recommendations are being made to you today for appointment. It is a full authority responsibility to make the appointments, so they clearly appreciate difficult for you as members without having seen the candidates to differentiate or disagree from the panel's recommendations. We've started with the item in open session, although you will see that it's the last item in case we need to go into closed session. We've done that because it's been the tradition of the Fire Authority, the convention, to hold discussions about the appointments to such senior positions in open for transparency purposes. If members wished to ask any questions or start making any comments in relation to individual members, though, Chair, I would ask that we move into closed session so that we don't talk about individuals in public. I'll hand over to the Chief, if I might, Chair.
Thank you, Gareth. I'd like to start by thanking members who volunteered to be part of the appointment panel. I think it was a very demanding process, not only for the candidates, but also the panel themselves. So thank you very much for undertaking this duty. This was actually the final stage of a very challenging process for applicants. We went out to advert and we were very pleased with the response that we had. We had candidates from both within the service and from other fire and rescue services. So an independent person separate from the organisation created the long list of applicants, and I interviewed along with her in order to create the short list of applicants. Those 3 shortlisted applicants then were independently assessed as far as their managerial capability, their handling of a media situation, their report writing and gathering of information. And then when it came to the actual day when they were presented to the panel, they not only presented a very thought-provoking presentation, but also answered questions not only on the topic, but also across a number of issues that are very relevant to senior officers in the fire and rescue sector. So the findings, I will now pass on to the chair to formally say the findings of the panel, and then ask members to confirm those appointments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So just to reiterate, there was 6 authority members on the panel, 1 from each authority area. All members of that panel were in full agreement that we had 3 outstanding candidates that appeared before us in interview, but we were also unanimous that the 2 that we were recommending for appointment are the 2 names that appear before you today, namely ACFO Anthony Jones and Justin Evans. So I would invite the full authority now to confirm these 2 substantive appointments of both officers. Councillor Gwynfywen, dych chi eisiau dod I fewn?
Yes, diolch yn fawr. Sgynna I ddim problem a dwi'n
Thank you.
hapus I...
I've no problem, and I'm happy to make the recommendation and accept the recommendation, but I have a problem with the process, and I'm not sure. Do you want to go through the recommendation first of all and allow me to come back in on the process? I think that would be a good idea. If you're happy to propose, do we have a seconder?
Ratify the appointments. Thank you, Mark. Will you all show that you agree with the substantive appointments of ACF Anthony Jones and Justin Evans. Diolch yn fawr. I am going to formally congratulate both of them on their now substantive appointments and invite them. But first of all, we'll just go back to Councillor Gwynfor Owen with the process. Gwynfor?
Diolch yn fawr.
Yes, thank you. And congratulations to both. I am unhappy because it was stated clearly at the beginning that it was members of the executive only who would be part of this process. Then an email was sent out to everyone asking whether we were happy to take part. I responded by saying that I thought it was only members of the executive panel who were allowed to be part of this, and I got an email back saying, yes, correct. Then further on, then there was another email with not much warning asking whether I was happy to be part of the process again, though we weren't members of the executive panel. I don't, surely you would have enough executive members who could come together to take part in the process. And I must say, if you're on a committee, please take that committee seriously. Thank you.
The difficulties arose because we needed some gender balance on the interview panel, and there was only one female member on the executive panel who, unfortunately, due to annual leave commitments, wasn't able to be present. So that's why then we asked for somebody outside of the executive panel in terms of being a female representative. It was a mistake to say that all members of the authority could have been on the interview panel. That was just an administrative error. But
sorry, gai ddod i fewn eto.
May I come in again? Sorry. Men were selected from the audit panel to serve on that committee. So what you've just said now, it's not watertight, I'm afraid, Mr. Chairman. I don't think that's right. Gareth, would you like to come in?
Sorry, Chair, just having difficulty get myself off mute there. Yeah, we did try to, as you say, Chair, get a gender balanced panel, and members will recall the comments that I made about trying to restore gender balance into the executive panel during the annual meeting part of the this morning's business. We were looking to try and improve it so that we can have that more balanced panel. We were stuck at short notice, Chair. As you said, we tried to arrange it. We did try to arrange it within the bounds of the executive panel, and then found ourselves unable due to the need to, I think, reschedule the meetings around other people's availability. We lost that gender balance that we were originally seeking, and so we're in a position of needing to convene a panel on a day when we had people available, which didn't give us perhaps what we were looking for in terms of membership, or what we would have sought originally in terms of membership.
Thank you, Gareth. I'm going to move now to, as I say, following my congratulation of the two appointments, can I invite both ACFOs to say a word? Ant, I'll start with you. Diolch, Ant.
Diolch fawr iawn, thank you. And yeah, having been on the other side of the process, it was very much a challenging process, but one that I walked away from thinking, well, actually, I've been tested significantly. But North Wales is home for me personally and professionally. And when I moved here in 2022, it was a career decision, but also a real personal commitment for me. So I'm immensely proud to be appointed as one of your Assistant Chief Fire Officers. It's been a dream of mine for a long time, working alongside the Chief Helen and Justin as your executive team, our executive assistant team, and the wider service leadership team. So I think we've got a really strong team to move the service forward now. And I'd really like to thank everybody, all the members and the people and the staff and the team involved in the process, the panel for putting your faith in me. I have to give some thanks to my family and my wife and the colleagues within North Wales, because I wouldn't be able to function at this level without their support. And all this help and support has given me that confidence and strength to take on this role and the challenges I know it will bring me. But I'm really looking forward to the next chapter of my career leading the service forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Diolch, Ant. Justin, over to you.
Well, diolch yn fawr. I'm incredibly honoured to be appointed as Assistant Chief Fire Officer. And I suppose echoing Ant there, really want to express my sincere gratitude for everybody that was involved in the process. But also I want to thank sort of colleagues and mentors and all the people that have supported me previously in my career up to this point. So very much appreciated. A big responsibility. I understand the weight of it and what comes with this position. So I just want to give members assurance that I am committed to leading with integrity, clarity, and purpose moving forward. And I'm really looking forward to working with you all as we continue to protect our communities and support our teams and build fire service that we can all be proud of. So diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch, Justin. So that brings the meeting to a close, and it's good to be able to finish on such a positive note. Da iawn. So can I thank everybody for their attendance today and their contributions. Diolch yn fawr iawn, pawb. Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Diolch.
Thank you, pawb.
Bye for now.